Thank you. So my talk will be, my name is Antonino Cattaneo. I am a neuroscientist, a molecular neurobiologist. More precisely, my background is in physics. And so this is just one message that I would like to convey to you, is that physics is and neuroscience are very, very much closely related, in terms of there are many opportunities for physics students to go into neuroscience, both on the experimental side, because physics inspires new approaches, on the theoretical side, because physics inspires new theories that are much needed to understand the brain, and also on the computational side. So neuroscience is a very, very important, inspiring natural system whose interest is obvious, but where physics and physical based students can really give a big contribution. This has been true throughout the history of neuroscience, together with, of course, biology, medicine, chemistry, and all other natural sciences. So the institute that I will talk to you about, European Brain Research Institute, has been founded by Rita Levi-Montalcini. It was, I will give 2 words about Rita Levi-Montalcini for those of you who do not know her in a short while. The institute was established in some 20 years ago. And the idea of the institute was to investigate the basic mechanism of the brain. So really the fundamental mechanism as the essential way to then, as a final goal, to identify new therapies for neurological diseases that today have no treatment yet. So the idea is that a basic mechanism of the brain, studying these mechanisms, should be at the basis of what is done in the institute. And with this scientific legacy, the Institute obtained in 20 years important scientific results, and also developed new technologies, and has a rich pipeline of new drug candidates that are currently being tested also in human patients. And importantly, the Institute, 20 years after its foundation, received secured a constant support from the Italian government. So if you want to know more about Rita Levi-Montalcini, she was a scientist that got the Nobel Prize for Medicine and Physiology in 1986. And you can read this biography, In Praise of Imperfection, that is a beautiful narrative of her life. And the reason why I put this up is because Rita Levi-Montalcini, as a Jewish origin, had went through some very severe hardship, and she was banned from doing research and attending her laboratory at the end of the 30s in Italy, because of the racial laws that banned Jewish people to attend all public and research initiatives. So he was, of course, very, very, very depressed and very sad about this. And in 1940, when the Second World War started, she was hiding, and a colleague told her, you do not have to lose heart in the face of the first difficulties. Set up a small laboratory and take up your interrupted research. So this is what she did. She set up a bedroom laboratory with a microscope, and she was experimentally in cheap embryos. And so this is a quotation of her in which she embarked in trying to understand the complexities of the nervous system, with its billions of cells gathered in populations, each different from the other, and all locked into the apparently inextricable nets of the nervous circuits which intersect in all directions. These are neural networks that are at the essence of the function of the brain. And one sentence that she said, and she often repeated, was, "The pleasure I was savoring in anticipation was enhanced by the prospect of carrying out the project in her bedroom under the conditions contingent to the prohibitive racial law." So her attitude that I would like to convey as a philosophy of our institute and of a philosophy for young people, particularly in the global south, who have difficulties more than in our countries to enter the fascinating study of the brain and of research and of science in general, is that the quest to know, to learn, and to do research can be a strong driving force also in face of difficulties. And this difficult path that she undertook she made her discoveries in the 50s and in the 40s and in the 50s, but then this took her all the way through making an important discovery, and she discovered the nerve growth factor that is a prototype of a factor that guides the growth and the survival of nerve fibers, how nerve fibers connect one to each other, and how they find their targets, and how these connections are maintained in the adult nervous system, and then also how eventually they degenerate, leading to some important diseases. So this is a long path of discovery, and this is the reason also why in her 90s she wanted to set up an institute whose mission was to recruit young scientists in the first independent research position, that is the moment in which they are more enthusiastic and more fruitful in the research, and create an institute that would recruit people from all over the world. And so this is, she started the institute without having secured a secure fund, only based on her authority and her name. And then, so it was really out of one of her typical courageous initiatives. And so EBRI is not a large institute, is about 60 researchers and technicians, but it's a very, very strongly connected with both national and international institutions, I will say in a while. It is structured in now 10 independent laboratories that are led by principal investigators, and then 3 facilities and 2 joint laboratories. It investigates the mechanisms of the brain in health and disease, in physiology and pathology, with the goal of developing new therapies. And there are many different diseases that are being studied, and some of which are listed here. And so the idea is that we do blue sky research, where fundamental research is very much what is really the main thrust of the institute. But then this leads both to technological innovation, new methods are being developed, and also clinical studies are being undertaken from in connection with clinical centers with which we are connected. And this is then a pipeline of new innovative therapies that hopefully will become new medicines. And the list of laboratories is here. I don't expect you, I don't want to walk you through these, but as you can see from the titles, many different topics and mechanisms of the brain are investigated. How neurons form memory, how RNA molecules shape gene expression in neurons, how during development connections are made, how post-translational modifications modify the proteins in function of the brain, etc., and etc. So we also have 3 facilities, one of which is the facility of bioinformatics and artificial intelligence, where Zainab Nazari works, and she's by the way, when we recruited Zainab a few years back, she had a total physics and computational background, and when we interviewed her, we were really very, very much impressed by the enthusiasm that she had to learn new scientific topics. And I remember asking her, you know that neuroscience, you will need to learn some neuroscience even to apply your background. And she has been very, very willing in studying neuroscience, and then now she's really a cornerstone in our laboratories. And I would like to tell you something about one joint laboratory that we have with a hospital that is with Bambino Gesù. This is a hospital, a pediatric hospital, a children's hospital in Rome, which is really a national excellence clinical center. And in this hospital, we set up a joint lab where there is a disease that is called drug-resistant epilepsy. And these little patients have epileptic seizures from very, very early on, and no known drug is effective for them to treat the seizures. And so this is a very, very dramatic condition. And the only current therapy that these little patients can have is a neurosurgical treatment to remove the epileptic focus. So this, you can imagine that it is very invasive. And 4 years back, we approached at EBRI, we approached the hospital, and we suggested to set up a facility whereby the neurosurgical tissue that is removed from the patients, instead of being simply after the surgery analyzed for the clinical analysis that are required and then disposed of, our scientists, our researchers put it in culture. They can keep the tissue in living conditions for a few weeks, and then this can be a very, very precious and valuable tissue to analyze the mechanism underlying the drug resistance directly in tissue from the human patient. And we can use now this to screen for new investigational drugs or drug repurposing. And most important also from your point of view, probably, we have now human neurons that whereby we can do electrical recordings, electrophysiological recording, and we can use this data to do computational modeling of human neurons and circuits. So here you have below this, here you have the pipeline of let me just put the pointer. No, I cannot. Anyway, don't worry. And so here you can see an example of a recording of electrical current recorded from this tissue. And we have a very rich program on other diseases, for instance, on Alzheimer's disease, that instead of being a pediatric disease, it is a disease of the elderly, as you know. And here we have a very, very competitive experimental pipeline. You know that there is still no real effective cure for this disease, despite being so frequent and despite 30 years of very important work worldwide. And we have here a very clear program. We think we understand why there is still no yet a cure, and we are working very, very hardly towards a goal. And human neuron is really now a very, very important platform at EBRI, and we can not only have human neurons from patients, but also we can grow from human stem cells, the so-called human-induced pluripotent stem cells. This is a technology that was developed by Shunichi Yamanaka in Japan, who together with John Gurdon got the Nobel Prize some 10 years ago for these pluripotent stem cells. And now we can grow these stem cells in culture and make them neurons, and then with neurons derive what is called the brain in a dish, brain organoids, whereby neurons can form excitatory and inhibitory and glial cells together, make a tissue that really reproduces some of the properties of cortical tissue, for instance, human cortical tissue in a dish. And of course, large data and heterogeneous data sets from clinical, biochemical, genetical data can be put together and analyzed with computational algorithms and as training sets to develop machine learning algorithms to learn rules about how these data can be analyzed. And this is just an example of a large European consortium that EBRI is coordinating and is put together. And now to study pediatric neurodevelopmental disorders, to integrate multi-omics data to refine subgroup endotypes for stratification of patients. For instance, many of autism spectrum disorder diseases that affect the children are very heterogeneous and are ill-defined, and so for this reason the treatments cannot be so effective. And if one can computationally help to stratify the patients based on different parameters that cannot be possibly being analyzed single-handed, this is a very important approach whereby we hope to be able to develop a new generation of patient stratification and treatments. And this network now is being extended to Mediterranean, Sub-African, and Middle East patient cohorts to provide data on with the Mediterranean Barycentrum. And we have an international scientific council that is very active and that helps in shaping the strategies and also in selecting the new PIs. We have a very, very important international network, and importantly, we are also very active in science outreach and communication. And we are involved in many initiatives for educational and public awareness, and for schools in particular, and we have initiatives also with sport federations and with public awareness initiatives. And we are very happy now to start a very fruitful collaboration with ICTP that was triggered initially by our researcher Zainab. And I must say I know very well ICTP because for 15 years in the 90s I was a professor at CISA, and so I am very, which is a very important partner of ICTP. And this is an additional reason why we are very happy now to start an important growing, hopefully, collaboration with ICTP. And I'm coming to a conclusion of my talk. I'd like just to remember that both Rita Levi-Montalcini and Abdus Salam share the profound belief that science should not remain a privilege of a few, but must be accessible to all, regardless of geography, gender, or circumstances. And both of them really worked towards this goal. And in this spirit, EBRI and ICTP have started joining forces to organize the initiatives that have been mentioned, and particularly for young women who have been denied access to education and are currently banned from pursuing higher studies. And although we are much smaller than ICTP, we hope to bring neurosciences that are a very, very cross-disciplinary and interdisciplinary field of science to as an additional contribution to the mission that ICTP has for training and education in the Global South. And with this, we are really convinced that the universal promise and role of science is to empower mind, open doors, create a more just, peaceful, and hopeful world. And I would like to welcome you all, and I wish you a very successful course. And for ICTP, I really, one thing also that I would like to, a small drop that I would like to throw is that we would like to leverage this initiative to jointly undertake training and educational programs in physics and neuroscience. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Antonino. It was really great and beautiful and interesting overview of EBRI. So if you have any question, you can ask.
So
Yeah, it seems there is no question. I just wanted to ask you a bit, tell us more about Rita Levi-Montalcini and her outreach program for African students back in the time that she was.
Thank you, Zainab. Thank you. I did not have time to tell this. You give me the opportunity of reminding this. So Rita Levi-Montalcini had founded an initiative in which her vision was her mission was to help young African ladies, women, to study and to undertake scientific studies. And so she had a program whereby she funded student fellowships to come to study in their own country, and a small number of them to come to Italy to do their studies. And at EBRI, we had the opportunity of hosting some years back some of these African students who spent time in our laboratories. And also for this reason, very much so Rita Levi-Montalcini passed away in 2013. She was lucky enough to spend a very long life in a very very active until the end. And in the spirit of her initiative towards Africa, and so in general to Global South, we also are very much involved in trying to pursue that goal towards other countries in which women are endangered in their ability to train and educate in scientific subjects. And of course, EBRI, as I said, is not a large institute, but so in a sustainable way with the resources that we have, but also in a sustainable way with a large vision that we would like to foster, we are trying to give our small contribution to pursue Rita Levi-Montalcini's vision. Thank you, Zainab, for reminding that.
Thank you very much, Antonino, and I hope the students will benefit from this talk and also inspired by Rita Levi-Montalcini and her hard life. If you go and study about her, that how during the war she was making a lab in her bedroom and trying to produce something, I think it would be very inspiring for you guys in Afghanistan to not give up and continue. Thank you very much, Antonino, for your presence.
Thank you to all of you, and I wish you a very successful course.
Thank you, Antonio. Thank you.
Thank you. So how I stop presentation?
It was a really inspirational